everybody? How's it hanging? How's it happening? You guys know who it is. This is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast, brought to you by My Song of the Day, Rock 2000 Day. Wishing you a happy Tuesday. It is July 21st? Yeah, July 21st. Kevin, why'd you have to think about that one? For some reason I thought it was the 22nd, but no, it's the 21st. And you guys know I always like to bring the heat on these, and I've got another band that is bringing the heat. But before we do, let me go through my shameless plugs section of the podcast, where if I had any advertisements where I talk about it, but I don't, because the one that we were going to have, it just didn't work out at all. So, so I'm just going to plug my stuff. Please follow My Song Day, Rock 2000 Day on places like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Those are social media platforms, pages, whatever you want to call them. Every single 30-second Song of the Day preview clip will be featured on those along with anytime anything gets released, like a podcast episode, YouTube video, anything like that. Instagram is probably our most popular platform because we do so many things on Instagram. Like, we ask you so many different questions. We connect with you in so many different ways. We have our IGTV videos, which come out every single Tuesday night, which is all about behind the scenes, look at what we're doing here and kind of what you can expect from us. And our Instagram lives, which are live streams every single Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Central. It's a fun time for you to come connect with us in a most, like, what's the proper word? In the most, like, unconventional and just, like, unstructured way. It's like whatever happens, happens. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel because we make many great YouTube videos. My favorite is the Kevin Figures Out series, where I try and figure out, like, different bands. Like, okay, I know them, but I really don't know their music. So let's figure out if I like them or not. I love doing that. Album reviews, top 10 lists, answer questions. Tomorrow's is insane. I go through this whole entire thing in Italian metalcore. It is awesome. And just more about that. But you can find the Chord Progression podcast videos on YouTube, on the My Song Day Rock 2000 Day YouTube page. You can also listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play, because here we are unearthing the underground. We are finding those bands that are right about to break into the scene and just like break out, and you're going to know them for a long time. And yeah, we're going to get you in on them early. And I found a great one. So, well, actually, I should say this. You guys remember Creature from Rebelmatic? Yeah, he told me, you guys, or me specifically, you should check out this band, Fear is Dead. Creature's best friend, Skillet, is the lead singer. And I'm like, okay, I'll check him out. What should I check out? Assimilation. Okay, I'll check that out. And you guys know me, I love punk rock. And it had a different feel, but had that punk rock feel to it. I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. It was like experimental metal, punk, whatever you want to call it. It was good, and we had an interview set up. And after like 2 or 3 like glitches in when we were trying to start shooting this, the 4th time is the charm. So everybody sit back, relax, and please welcome Skila and David from Fear is Dead out of New York. Are you guys ready? Because this one is fun, informative as all hell. So are you guys ready? Let's go. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast, hopefully our audio and video and connection issues are fixed from this. After this is the 4th time we are trying this, but I am here with friends of our friend Creature from Rebelmatic. He said, check out my buddy. His name's Skilla. He's in a band called Fear is Dead, and I think you're going to like him. So I checked him out, and gotta say, Creature did not steer me wrong. So please welcome David and Skilla from the band Fear is Dead. Guys, welcome to Chord Progression Podcast.
Thanks for having us again and again and again.
Again and again and again. Hopefully nothing cuts on this one, but we'll see what happens. I just hope nothing bad happens, because I'm really hoping, we get this done right.
The worst thing that can happen is we'll get struck by lightning. We're okay.
I definitely think there's things that are worse than that, because that seems like rather like an instantaneous kind of thing. Like a very like slow, prolonged, painful kind of thing seems a little bit worse.
Sounds familiar.
Kind of does. Well, all right. Well, how are you guys doing over there in New York City right now? Hopefully everything's going well, especially with the current state of the world that we are in, with everything as crazy as it is.
And it's hot.
Just a little, just kind of toasty, a little humid. I mean, because my AC is off right now, so you guys don't hear the AC over the microphone. But but just because of how hot and humid it is outside, if you start to be like completely like drenched in sweat by the time this podcast is over, just know it was worth it.
Yeah, gotcha. We'll try and make it so. Can you hear our AC?
No, I can't.
pointing. We're gonna be sweating too.
I'm just gonna be thinking, you guys are killing me. Like, I'm just gonna be thinking, oh, I wish I had that nice AC, but nope. I got to deal with no AC, no fan, just all natural. Like, if we were doing this podcast like 100 years ago, kind of weather feel in the house.
Well, your windows closed.
They have to be, otherwise I'm gonna end up hearing like motorcycles going up and down the streets. There's a couple of bikers that live by me, and they're always revving everything up. So I'm just like, oh, this will be interesting.
Okay, I understand.
Well, let's get into Fear is Dead, because that is why we're here, to talk about your band Fear is Dead. So we'll start out with, you guys want to give a little bit of introduction on yourselves, just kind of who you are, what you do, how, like, you know, any fun facts about yourselves or anything wacky, because I always like to hear any sort of just wackiness that comes out of anybody. Usually just like the fun part. It's like, okay, how the hell did this happen? How the hell did you do that? That kind of stuff.
Which one you want first?
I don't know. Whichever one wants to go first.
For you. Yeah, put me in a hot seat.
Yeah.
I can't think of any wacky stuff, but I started,
Introduce yourself first.
Well, I'm trying to think of wacky stuff. I'm getting up to that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm David. I play guitar, and I started in the band. I joined in 2014, and I kind of found them on a Craigslist ad.
He found me on Craigslist.
Yeah, and it was a really undercover feel. He was kind of scared when he first saw me. Thought I was a cop. Really suspect approach, but turned out well.
We stopped joking about him being a cop. Started bothering him.
So you can write a book about it, just like, you know, how I found my guitarist on Craigslist.
That what? I'm sorry?
You can write a book about it called How I Found My Guitarist on Craigslist, and just like, because every time I hear Craigslist stories, it's either like you meet like the weirdest people, or just like these random horror stories if you had to drive out to the middle of absolutely nowhere to go and find this, like, God, I don't know, like, what are you trying to pick up, like a couch, or I think my buddy, the apartment I lived in last year, he found it on Craigslist or something. I don't remember, but hey,
I remember while I was on my way to, like, it was like maybe 2 hours to travel. I was on my way. I'm like, where the fuck am I going? Who am I about to meet? What's about to happen? It was really, really weird for both of us.
Yeah. I thought I was under arrest when I came up to the house, because I came up and he was waiting in front of my house. You got a guitar, all right.
So it's gonna be one of the weirdest things, just like all of a sudden there's someone in front of my house. Oh wait, he's got a guitar. Oh, it's
a good sign. It's a good sign.
I'm saying, I'm not gonna ask, you know, like what you were thinking about, like when you thought he was a cop, like what you get arrested for, because I don't want to dive into that. But it seems like everything worked out for the best, because that happened in 2014. Oh. Well, now we know.
I smoke a lot of weed, or at least I used to. I actually stopped until like Ish got here, but anyway, that's my drummer Ish. But anyway, I'm going on a break again.
Fair enough. I mean, I think last time I smoked was when I was in Amsterdam last year, so. Definitely was worth it, but I'm not a big purveyor of smoking. It's just not. I don't care if people do it. I just don't like to do it personally myself. If people are gonna smoke, I'm gonna be like, can you just get me like a beer or something, or like a 6-pack, and I'll just enjoy the rest of the day with you guys, because that's just my kind of way to do it.
Everybody has their poison.
Exactly. Mine is beer, tequila, and gin.
Nice.
So, but it seems like everything, again, worked out for the best, because Dave, you said that was in 2014, and it's, 6 years later now, and you guys are still sitting together doing a podcast with me here, and it seems like everything is going pretty dang good.
Yeah. No arrests yet.
Yeah. Keep fighting every day. Not us, but,
Us too.
But you keep going, you keep the faith, you keep working hard through it, through good and bad. It has its, there's a lot of great moments along the way.
Yeah, and when it comes to like when you're saying like, you know, keep fighting, it's like especially with going about a different way with Fear is Dead, really fighting through spreading different messages in your music and with different songs as well. So can definitely see where it's coming from there. But I kind of go all the way back to the beginning. So how did Fear is Dead start? And how did you guys both get into music yourselves?
Fear is Dead started in 2010. I used to rap, and I quit rapping. At the time, it was my subject matter just didn't fit in, so I was just kind of done with it. My co-producer at the time, she was a guitar player, and she was just like, "Yo, let's start a band." And it took us a year. We put together some songs and started from there. You know, I got a new lineup, 2000. Well, yeah, around 2014, right? Started a new lineup. Yeah. And I met David. You know, our backups became our new rhythm section because I had met Carlos and Matt again through Craigslist. So yeah, and then they were our backups, but then they liked the music so much they came forward, and then, you know, we took it from there. And Dave came in, and then we've done 3 EPs since then. We've done Eleutherophobia. We've done, what's the other one? What Remains, Omnicidal, and now we're working on an album.
Is the album going to be called Craigslist just because you found everyone through Craigslist?
No, but you're giving me very good ideas.
Hey, that's what I do. I've come up with some real random ideas in the past on podcasts that have worked out for a couple of bands in the past. It's like they've asked me, can we use that? I'm just like, go for it. All because if it's like, oh, where'd they come up with the idea? I've got the video proof of where they came up with the idea. It was a brainchild in this podcast. Just like, oh, here it is.
Nice.
So I'll say we'll get into that album that you're talking about. We'll get into it later on because I still want to stick kind of more in the realm of like when you guys started out, because listening to your music, definitely, of course, you kind of have more of that metal side to you guys, but it's a little bit different than, you know, what you'd expect. And I see you Skillet pointed Dave for that one. So where I was going to go with that is when it comes to making music, it's just everyone's inspired by different things, different sounds. And I always like to hear what people listened to when they were kids growing up and when they were really getting into music, like what bands and what artists really inspired them. So I'm going to pass this on to you guys. When you guys were growing up, what bands did you listen to? What artists did you listen to? And what musicians really inspired you to be the musicians you are today?
It's a combination of stuff that I listened to when I was a kid and stuff today, but also just jamming out with the guys. When I was younger, I was into Stain, Nirvana, Papa Roach, Metallica, Chord, Slipknot. Today, I'm still like very heavy into Chord and Slipknot. But I mix it up every now and then. I'll branch out to, you know, like Spotify and try to browse different bands, get a taste of, you know, different ideas and different, you know, things I can do, experiment, but also just jamming with the guys and have a different chemistry, a real chemistry with people, as opposed to just doing my own thing. Helped a lot to develop a new style, play what I was playing a little differently. Yes, kind of a combination of what people have.
All right, what about you, Skilla?
Me? Well, I have a lot of inspirations. I'm a big Nas fan as far as hip hop. Nas, Jay-Z, just Rakim, Fuji rap. As far as different types of music, I listen to almost everything, I guess. Yeah, I never I had a lot of friends from just different walks of life, and everybody was sharing stuff with me all the time. So I'm a mutt when it comes to that. The guys put me onto a lot of metal. You know, I used to like some. I liked a lot of grunge. Big Soundgarden fan of Soundgarden. Yeah, there's a lot of grunge, Nirvana. Vocally, I have a lot of different influences as well. But I was actually thinking about that the other day. And I'll get back to that. That's something I'm still figuring out. You know, like I said, I'm a mutt. But what was the rest of the question?
So kind of hearing where you guys were influenced as when you were younger and becoming musicians as well. How about this? Was there a certain moment in life that you kind of had this epiphany that you realized that you wanted to make music for, like, that's what you want to do with your life? That was your passion and that's what you're going to do. Was there any kind of moment, or was it something that just kind of happened gradually and you're just like, you know what? This is what I've enjoyed my whole
into a career, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, that's different. I mean, in hip hop, a lot of times once you put a certain amount of time into it, it starts feeling like a career, no matter how much love you got for it. But also, just it's common sense that if you love something so much, and you get to a certain point and you invest a certain amount of time and money into it, you know, you may want to make it your career, you know, and take it a step further. You know, who doesn't want to make a living off something they do, especially if they're professional about it? You know, I think that's actually one element that lacks in a lot of artists. They don't try to see the professional aspect of it, and they think they're owed something just based off their talent. And in this world, nobody owes you anything. You know, it's about what you earn, you know, and unfortunately for some, what they take. But it's still an effort put forward to obtain something, you know, rather than just be and your ego tells you, oh, you know, it's owed to me. No, it's not. You got to work every day, you know, every chance you get. You know, you got to do your 9 to 5 as well. So you don't get any sleep if you really want it.
I'll say exactly, because I kind of feel the same way as that. It's like, if you don't have, if there's a certain drive that you have to have in order to do something like that, especially if it's in the beginning as well, because it's, okay, you might have the talent to do absolutely anything in the world, but no one owes you just because you're good at something. It's, you have to put in the work, you have to put in the effort, and you have to put in anything you possibly can so that not only does that talent get recognized, but that talent is valued by the market, so that all of a sudden it's like, okay, you know, like in a music sense, like you're playing live shows, people want to come and see you play live. You're putting out music and you're producing it, and all of a sudden you put out a full EP or full album. It's got to be a point where it's got to be something that, you know, you love, but the quality of whatever kind of music you're making has to be there. People are going to want to buy that album, because say myself, I try to make like a punk rock album by myself. I mean, you never know. I might be one of the best songwriters to ever live, but if I'm just putting it together myself on one computer, it's going to sound like crap and no one's going to want to listen to it.
Yes. Yeah. Quality is very important. And it's about having pride in your work, you know, and feel that, you know, your love deserves your labor, you know. Not every, you know, like I know artists that feel, I mean, I felt like that, like, you know, it actually, this comes into effect when promoting, you know, I don't like pushing myself on people, you know, but at the same time, I realize I need to do that. I need, in a tasteful sense, I need to promote myself, you know, and some artists, they don't want to, they feel almost embarrassed to ask their worth, you know, or recognize that their talent deserves that kind of recognition, you know, and you have to put the effort to get it that recognition.
Understandable. And could it potentially be something as well where it's with especially coming from an artist standpoint, when it comes to trying to promote yourself and put yourself out there and to promote, you know, music in shows, and not trying to be pushy out there, but putting yourself out there, trying to ask basically what is your music worth to people out there right now, worth to the whole entire marketplace in a sense.
As well.
Yeah, and yourself as well. Is it something that, you know, it's kind of, you kind of don't want, sometimes you might not want to do that because you might be a little bit afraid of what the answer might be?
Yeah, you got to bet on yourself. It's the ultimate bet on yourself.
But then again, in the end, the one thing you have to remember too is it's better to bet on yourself than to bet on somebody else, because if you bet on somebody else and it works out, it's going to be just like betting yourself. It works out, but you're going to feel so much better if you bet on yourself, because you're the one that made it for yourself. But if you bet on someone else and then it doesn't work out, what's going to happen is you're going to be like, you're going to have all this regret because you bet on someone else and you had no control over it. If you bet on yourself and maybe it doesn't work out, you can always look back and say, hey, at least I tried and now I know, and I'm going to go through the rest of life knowing that it was worth it because now I know. And you're going to be like 85, 90 years old, sitting on a porch up by a lake, looking up at like the sunrise. And you're going to be like, you know what? Life was worth it, instead of just sitting there like, oh, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. If you bet on yourself, you're not going to live with any regret.
No. Beautiful. Yep.
That's my inspirational moment. I've usually have like one or two of those at some point throughout, either when I do podcasts or live streams. The last live stream I did, I think it was just like me going on an inspirational rant for like an hour. It got kind of wacky, but I just kind of just let it flow, and it worked out rather nicely. I'm not gonna lie.
They're healthy.
Yeah, I had a similar experience to that. Like one job that I had previously. I was like supposed to be getting some sleep. I was pretty exhausted, but I found myself getting out of bed just right. And I had this idea on the time, like I need to get out of bed right now. As exhausted as I was, like I gotta do this. I gotta write. I gotta, just see where it goes. I don't want to be old and regret not giving this a shot.
Yeah, I know how that feels well, because there was a job that I was at before, because I'm still at a full-time job right now, but the one I was before, the one I am right now, it was like every single day I was driving to work, I'd get off the highway, and I would always wonder, what if I just got back on the highway and went home and just didn't go back? like I contemplated that so many times, and it was through my pure hatred for having to go to work and having to live just like that standard life that, you like the most stereotypical, like middle class life you could imagine. It's like everyone I worked with there, that's what it was like. And my life was kind of falling apart around me, and I was struggling just to adjust after college. I'm like, is this what it's supposed to be? Like, this absolutely sucks. Yeah. And through that, I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm just sitting by and not doing anything about it. And that's why I'm here talking to you guys right now. So,
nice.
So, Dave, I definitely.
Moment.
Yeah. You had one too, Skillet?
I think most of us have had. Well, no, you know what? Some of us, if we're lucky, have those moments.
Yeah, I'd say there are a good amount of people that kind of hope they have those moments and then just never do. And I don't want to say it's sad, because sometimes it's like they don't have those moments, their lives go in a completely different direction. Maybe they get married and have like 2 or 3 kids, and then they absolutely go crazy and just be like, are in absolute love with being a parent. And it takes all kinds to make the world go round. Yeah, exactly.
It's not this. Everybody has their own version of happiness. What sucks is when you know your version of happiness and you don't go for it, or you never tried to find what your version of happiness is.
Yes. Exactly. I think it was because who is it? A guy I listen to all the time, especially like business side of things, with his name's Gary V. One of my favorite things he always said was like success is relative to your state of happiness. Because say there's someone that's like making like $47,000 a year, working 9 to 5, gets like 2-3 weeks of vacation a year, but has the life that he has a house, a wife, like a kid, a dog, and just loves every bit of life. And then there's a guy who's making $10 million a year, consistently works all the time at a place that he absolutely hates, is not fulfilled in any way of his life, but he's making $10 million a year. You take a look at both of those, and it's like society's going to say, yeah, the guy making $10 million is more successful. However, that guy's miserable as all hell. So it's
here's another way though. Since it takes different happiness, since it's relative, and it takes different happiness for different people, they could both be happy. But if you would reverse the roles on them, they would both be miserable.
Yeah, exactly. Like where I was trying to go with that example was like basically the guy that's making $10 million a year was not living the life that he wanted to be living. He was chasing after a certain dream that basically was like a more of a superficial kind of dream.
Yeah.
Instead of
some
actually
people get a kick out of that. Some people love that. Some people that's their thing.
And if that's their thing, then by all means go for it. That's what I was kind of saying. Like success is relative.
But
exactly. Your guys' thing is making some kick-ass music.
I wouldn't mind $10 million.
But $10 million making some kick-ass music, not $10 million like shoot out. No, I really don't know what you like and dislike. So,
I mean, I don't want to go into it, but I have my own company like that I put together because I didn't want to work for anybody else, right? That could make 10 million. I would still do music if I had the money, just because I love doing the music. It's more like therapy. But you know, I don't think one thing should. I don't think like while I would like to make a living off of what I love, I'm not doing it so I could make a living off of what I love, and that's why I got the company. But I know that we have the talent, and if we invest our time and money into our talent, we could actually do something. You know, if we sucked, I wouldn't want to do that. And it should be a hobby. But I'm pretty sure by now we don't suck. You know, you know, I don't know how good we are, but we're going to try to be as good as we can be. You know, or at least as happy as it makes us.
Well, if you've been around since 2010 making music, and you've been around really with the most current lineup we have right now, since you said around 2014 when you did the lineup shift, and you guys are still making music, and well, before the coronavirus pandemic happened, still playing shows, and I assume asking to get to play a good amount of these shows, then you're definitely doing something right, because in that sense, the marketplace for rock and metal and all the subgenres around that is saying that we want to listen to your music. We want you guys to play live, and we are going to come support you.
And we've been blessed with people that support us, so I'm happy about that.
That's good. And this is probably the first time I had someone actually on the podcast where it's not only is like in a band is trying to make that happen, but also has their own company at the same time as well. So this is a first for me. So this is awesome. I'm not used to this. So I'm a little curious about this. So Skill, what's the company that you have that you're running?
I don't want to talk about it. It's all about Fear is Dead today.
Fair enough. Alrighty. So when it comes to now back to Fear is Dead,
I'll tell you after we get off. Fair
enough. I just had to ask just because I was interested, but we get to know later. So woohoo.
Yeah.
So diving into your music. So when you guys started with, especially the lineup that you have right now, when you guys started playing live shows, what was the reception like for you guys from the crowd? What are your shows like, especially in terms of just what's the energy around them? What's the crowd like? Is there a lot of crazy mosh pitting going on there? Stuff that I love because I'm used to just getting whacked in the face and almost breaking my nose or getting massive cuts above my eyes just from people going head first into me, you know, that kind of stuff. So I'm always kind of curious to see when it comes to playing shows, what are Fear is Dead shows like?
Things get broken.
Okay, now you're making me intrigued. I got to hear more.
At one particular show, there was the merchandise tables. Somebody went through one. People getting smashed with walls. And then your usual mosh pit. We like to give a lot of energy in our performances. That tends to the audience feels that, and we feel them, and then they feel us. And it's like this nonstop bouncing off of each other kind of energy.
So people are getting put through merch tables and going through walls along with a mosh pit. Is this so is this just like a normal like metal show kind of style mixed with WWE in there? Because
it sounds like that.
I'll say if that's the case, now I'm very, very intrigued about this. I mean, I'm like, damn, I got to get to one of these shows.
I mean, it depends on where we are.
Yeah, what?
It depends on where we are.
Yeah, I was about to say that there are times where we also get
Oh, you get like the deadpan style.
It's like they're trying to. They seem to be enjoying it, right? But they're like, we get very. He's incredibly energetic on stage. I get very dramatic. Ish is great to watch playing drums. You know, Timmy's very active. So it's a performance, and sometimes they just like really just get synced in, and they're just like watching. You know, and I mean, I feel them synced in, but there's this look like they're really taking everything in. You know, and then there's times where they get, like you said, they just get emotional and they just go through it. You know, whatever it is, person, thing, place. But yeah.
Say when it comes to like those shows, do you have an idea of which shows are going to be those shows where they're going to be absolute crazy energetic, put people going through tables, and then those shows where people are just going to be taking everything in? Do you know what those types of shows are going to be like before you get on stage, or is it we're not going to know what's going on until we get on there, start playing, and we're going to see how the crowd reacts?
Kind of both. You know, like like I said before, you're feeling each other's energy. And it kind of depends on how we kick in the song, the mood. Sometimes we want to start a little laid back and then just continue bringing up the energy as we're going. Sometimes we want to just kick it right away and just, full blast from the start.
I definitely
always unpredictable. Hey, Ish, can you turn on the light?
So I'm just waiting for this light to come up just so you guys can just kind of come on. And now, having fun with that already. So, but I mean, for myself, it's like I've been to shows where both of those have happened. Where it's like I've been to shows where, of course, high energy, things are going crazy. I end up getting like hit in the face a couple of times and stuff happens. And those are always my favorite. But I've also been to the ones where it's like, because this was right before the pandemic and I was seeing Alter Bridge. And I'm like, I'm just like, I want to just enjoy myself in the same kind of show. But I'm looking around the room. I'm like, everyone here is like 45-ish. And I don't think there's really going to be anything going like that. So Alter Bridge goes on. I'm like, and so I kind of had that look of just like, just because all I was doing the whole entire time was I was just focused on Mark Tremonti playing, because just the stuff that guy can do with the guitar, I'm just like, how?
Yeah.
Like, just like that's, I kind of get the full on appreciation mode, like feel of it, because that was me the whole entire time, just like, I can't do anything in guitar, and I don't know how anyone can even do something like that. So I'm just going to enjoy this and take it from there, basically.
Yeah. I've had that similar. Mark Tremonti is one of my favorite guitar players. I've followed him since Creed, and he made the jump to Alter Bridge, and it just took it to a whole new level. And, yeah, he's another one of my inspirations.
I was gonna say, it's like if you followed him since Creed, I was like, he better be one of your inspirations, because just the way he plays, it just, again, there's just some stuff that he does that I don't think anyone else can do it. It's incredible.
Yeah, he's one of a kind.
Oh, very much so. But still, it's like, from when it comes to those shows, like, I've got a feeling like, okay, so when it comes to those shows, are you guys, when you guys are playing up there, are you more in tune with the ones that are just, everyone's really just taking in everything that's happening during the show, just watching and just really being a full part of the whole experience? Or are you guys bigger fans of the shows where people are going crazy and someone gets put through a merch table?
It's both. Because I would say that when they're staring, sometimes it's a little confusing because you don't know what they're thinking. So it's like, it's hard to, read that. The freak out energetic is a little more obvious, but like you said, sometimes they like to watch, like we all contribute different types of performances. So sometimes they just like to watch what we do.
I prefer merch table. As long as it's not our table.
Yeah, sometimes, it's like you watch them get crazy, and that's I prefer that. But when they're watching, sometimes that's another aspect that you don't. It's easy to, not appreciate it as much because it almost seems like you're just standing there and not liking it, but they're actually absorbing a lot more of it.
They're enjoying it in a much different way. It's instead of really enjoying it more on a it's a different emotion, honestly, because it's like when you're at a show,
more analytical. It's a little more detailed. You're not getting lost in emotion, but you're actually taking every aspect of it. It's an emotional transference, but it's still more locked in. Details.
I was gonna say, kind of saying that, like when you're like locked in and focused on it, it's especially from an audience member's perspective, you're feeling it emotionally as well, but you're feeling it on a little bit more of a deeper level because you're seeing all these different things that are happening during the show. You're appreciating everything that's going on stage, whether it comes from what you guys are doing on stage and how you guys are playing, and then just versus the whole entire aesthetic of the show. It's going to hit someone at a more like personal, emotional level versus something that's going to be where people are going absolutely crazy, where it's going to hit them on an emotional level, but it's going to be a little bit more on the surface and like what you're feeling right away instead of really digging deep in or being more analytical, like you said, Skilla. So it's definitely going to be an emotional experience, but it's just depending upon if you're going to be focused on the emotions more up front or the ones that are more deeper inside, I would say. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Mostly because that's the way my mind works with it too. Because if it's something where all of a sudden something's gonna be going crazy and I see a mosh pit in there, I'm just be like, alrighty, all right, someone throw me in there, someone hit me first, and then I'll be good. Usually, if I get whacked once, I'm like, I'm good for the rest of the show, and not like good, like okay, I'm gonna back out of this. Like my mindset is like I'm gonna be stuck here for the rest of the show, no doubt about it. Even if I get knocked in the head, start bleeding, and have to come back with someone's like flannel shirt piece like tied around my eye so I look like a pirate. Whatever works. If I'm gonna make it work, that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
Well, now let's wearing a helmet.
No, I'm never gonna wear a helmet because what'll end up happening is I'll end up like going like head first into people purposely because I'm like, hey, I got a helmet. I don't want to do that.
Hey, turn into a goat.
It'll be safe for you.
Well, yeah, it'll be safe for me. It won't be safe for everybody else. But then again, all of a sudden, like the venue will be like, hey, you can't do that. We're going to kick you out. And I'm not going to want to get kicked out of the venue because the venue that has all the good shows here, I go here in Milwaukee, it's like I went there, I think it was like 15 or 16 times last year for different shows. And
it sounds like Lucky's over here.
Kind of, yeah. The venue we have here, it's called the Rave. They've got 3 different stages indoors. They've got the biggest stage, which is their ballroom stage. It's on the top floor. In the middle, they got their like club stage. It's got its own balcony there. Then they just have a basement level. And those basement level shows are usually the most ridiculous of them all.
Yeah. Lucky 13 over here is a go-go bar out in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Go-go bar. And they have screens playing the wildest shit you've seen, just bugged out. And they're constantly playing metal music. They got go-go girls in the front by the bar, and in the back they got a stage. And that and Sing Fighters are usually the places where people perform around here. I'm forgetting that other spot. What's that? Ghost? Huh? Ghost. No, that's just a bar.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, what's that place that we performed at in Brooklyn? In the Boonies. There's also, what's this other spot? Shit. There's 2 other spots. Blackthorn, there's Vitus, there's Lucky's, there's, I forget this other spot.
I'll say, because you guys definitely have more spots than we have here in Milwaukee. It's like we've got the Rave, and then there's like a couple of really, really small ones. And like there was one smaller one, of course, right as everything starts getting shut down. Like the first concert I had missing was at this smaller venue here, and it was called X-Ray Arcade. Bad Omens was gonna play, and I'm just like, I got it for like $10. I was like, this is gonna be awesome. Day of the show, all of a sudden, yep, COVID-19 pandemic is shut down. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And then everything started to unravel after. I'm like, no, we came as Romans, no Devil Wears Prada, no Volbeat, no Deftones, no Assimilation. Like, all of mine just kept getting canceled. I'm just like,
I was getting ready to see Megadeth. Megadeth was going to come to Long Island.
We actually saw Bad Omens right before the whole pandemic started. It was like right at the end, like the past week before the pandemic started. We saw Bad Omens, and that was a good way to go into the pandemic. A nice goodbye show to go to lockdown.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think. I had my last one before the lockdown. It was like the day before everything started to get locked down. I went down to Illinois because a band that I've worked with for a while, they're called Kingdom Collapse out of Texas. They were playing at a bar in Illinois on a Saturday night. I'm like, well, before they get shut down, if they're going to be there, like, I'm going to go support them because I've been working with them for over a year now. It's like, okay, this will work out. And now they're doing really well for themselves even during the pandemic. But the last big one I went to was big one where I went absolutely crazy was Word Alive, Escape the Fate, and Falling in Reverse. And that one I almost broke my nose at during Falling in Reverse. And I was going to be really mad about it. But then I realized I didn't break my nose and they told me you're like, someone like, you didn't break your nose. I'm like, no, I didn't. He was like, good. You're leading the wall of death on our side. And I'm just like, I was looking at the other side and I found the guy that like, cause it was like a flying elbow to the nose. I saw him. I just pointed at him and the guy just looked at me. He's just like, and, we ran right after each other and I just planted him. And of course, planted him, picked him right back up. And then we just kept going crazy the rest of the show.
Nice. Yeah,
that's the way it's got to be done.
That's always good. You beat each other up, but then you hug each other after.
Oh, that's always how it ends. Like usually it's like here we go. Like, you usually get fist bumps or high five. I'll say this. I've gotten so many hugs like after songs during mosh pits than normally any other time in life, just because it's like people just beat the hell out of each other. All of a sudden it's like, hey, you survived. Hey, man. Good job. Now, some of these bars that you mentioned, like, or some of these places you mentioned, like Lucky 13 in, was that in Brooklyn, you said?
Yeah.
You guys play there regularly, or is that like a one-time thing?
Lucky's is like a second home. So, well, it was prior to the pandemic. We used to play there a lot, a couple times a year.
How many people would usually show up at Lucky's for one of your shows?
The room is packed.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there's people at the bar usually. But yeah, I mean, we packed it out on weekdays, on Sunday. It's cool.
So if you're packing it on a Sunday, then you guys are doing something right. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's local. You know, it's local, and if you build, enough people like you, they'll come out. You know, the biggest challenge I think is breaking out of local. And also like a local scene is anywhere from 200 to 500 people, and then there's another scene over here, and then there's another scene over here, another scene over here. And online, it's even hard to break out of that local scene, and start, getting over to people in that scene, and it's a lot of it is finding them. It's bugged out and it's very cliquey. So it's awesome that we got people, but the next challenge is spreading out and like spreading the gospel.
I mean, that's one way to put it, but what have you done to really try and break out of that local scene and, go to a couple other local scenes and also break out online as well? What kind of efforts have you been putting to basically
learning more about marketing? It's educational as hell. It's just learning more about marketing. It's either that or we got to pay a publicist, But the thing with that, I feel like I read this a long time ago when I started managing our band. You should never get a manager right off the bat. You should manage for 2 years, right? And get a taste of what that entails, so that when you do get a manager, they're doing their job right. And by the time you're done learning all that, you might not need one. But it's good to know in case you hire somebody. So the same thing with marketing, all this stuff. like, it's good to have an idea of what you're doing. So right now I'm getting a better idea of how to do this stuff and what to do. And then, hire people to do it better than me or more professionally. And with that also, it's like the more reach you want, the more it costs. There's like local promoters and they could only do so much for you. If you want the next level, you want a higher scale, then you got to pay a couple grand. So it's good to know what you're doing. So right now it's a very educational time for us, just getting a better idea how to market ourselves, how to brand ourselves to the public, things we can do just on our own to get people to notice or want to tune in or want to know who the hell we are or give a fuck about who the hell we are. Nobody owes you anything. Nobody got to care who the hell you are. So it's our job to give people a reason to care. So we're learning how to do that too.
Yeah, I really like what you said there when it came to just making sure you guys knew what you were doing yourselves, especially before, going into maybe getting a manager, just due to the fact that all of a sudden you have an idea of what it takes. And not only that, but you have an idea of in case a manager is potentially, you're going to hire a manager and potentially they're going to start, doing something that might screw you over. You are able to be aware of it right away. And when it comes to the marketing aspect as well, I'll give you a little case study that I've actually kind of ended up being a part of with a band I mentioned earlier with Kingdom Collapse, because they had a single come out about around middle of May. And I absolutely loved it. It was called Uprise. And what happened was they started this group on Facebook, just a bunch of people that really like their music. So it's just people a lot of people from Texas, then a couple people from other different parts of the United States. And when it came out, what they ended up doing was they kind of got everyone together and be able to go online and just start requesting a Sirius XM Octane to play the song and Test Drive to play the song. And what ended up happening was, last week, they were I think it was the week after 4th of July, they were the number one song played on Octane for the whole entire week. And it ended up becoming it was like number 39 in the top 40 Billboard rock charts, I think, or modern rock charts. Like it ended up becoming a top 40 hit all because of this. So it's kind of an idea of like, it's like kind of transform that into like an idea for Fear is Dead is kind of, because you guys definitely have a fan base in that local scene. For sure, especially if you're packing Lucky 13 every single time you go there. People are there, and people are there really liking your music. So
we don't pack it on our own, though. There's always 4 other bands that play with us, and we always make sure that they're awesome. We play with a lot of great bands out there. So it's a group effort. Alone, I'm sure we bring some people, but together we all bring it. The unity makes it more of a party.
Okay, but then I can kind of
I gotta be fair, you know what I mean?
Understandable.
I can't take all the credit.
Understandable, but then again, it's those people that are there, even if they're definitely there to see a different band that's also on the billing with you, they're going to be there to see you as well. Because I've gotten into plenty of bands that way. It's like I went to go see the headliner, or I even went to go see the opener instead, and I became a big fan of the headliner because I think this was back at November. I went to go see the opener because it was Light the Torch. And I wanted to see Howard Jones perform because I'd seen Killswitch Engage with Jesse, but I had never saw it with Howard. So I wanted to go see Howard perform. But then the show sold out because of the headliner, which was Ice Nine Kills. I'm like, okay, I'll stick around. I want to see what they got. And it went from me really not knowing the band and then becoming my second favorite band of all time. Like it happened like that. So it's definitely what I'm kind of going with that is, when there's people that come to your shows that are there because they were brought in from another band, like they're fans of that band, they could potentially end up really enjoying your music and then kind of connecting with you online, can kind of create a community to all of a sudden have like a little like guerrilla marketing tactic where all of a sudden you're having all these different people request that your songs are played and your music is played on different radio stations that people are really listening to and are promoting yourselves online as well, just because they really like your music. So it's kind of that word of mouth thing, but that word of mouth amped up.
Word of mouth is extremely effective. Extremely effective. Because it's usually somebody that, to a certain extent has a certain amount of trust built recommending something, rather as opposed to a stranger or random person online. Sorry, got a message.
Oh, it's understandable. But yeah, because if it's just some random person online, like if all of a sudden say like on my personal, like a personal Twitter account, like I told one of your fans, like, hey, check this out. They probably wouldn't care because they have no idea who I am. I'm just using me as an example. But all of a sudden, say one of their friends say, hey, you should go check out this band. They're more likely to do it because they know who the person is. They know that person knows their taste in music, and they're going to trust them that it might be something that they like. And if it's not, they're going to might maybe find like, okay, I can see why they thought I would like something like this. So there's going to be a trust there where they're going to be able to listen to it. Oh, yeah. Oh, it definitely is.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm concurring, Doctor.
Yeah. I think we all concur on that one.
Yeah, totally.
All right, well, how about this? How about we actually jump into some of your music, go real deep dive into it so people that are listening can really get an understanding of what Fear is Dead is about, especially when it comes to the music that you guys play. Sound good?
Sure.
And the first one I want to start out is your latest single, Assimilation, because I think that was the one that Creature told me to listen to right away because he thought I'd like that one the most. And yeah, he wasn't wrong. Not going to lie. So what was the inspiration behind Assimilation in terms of what you guys wanted that song to portray in terms of the message and when it came to writing it so that it sounded the way it did? So what inspirations were in there for what were you inspired to write the song about and write the song to sound like, if that makes sense?
Well, sound came first, so.
Yeah,
what were you thinking when you wrote that?
The lineup of guys that we have.
Wait, hold up, Dave, because I can't really hear you at all. It was like really muffled on that last one.
It's experimenting. The new lineup that we have with Ish and Timmy.
That was the first song I think we wrote, if I'm not mistaken.
One of them.
Yeah, it was that and Disciples we wrote.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and actually we wrote that with Chris Delgado, who that on bass, wrote the bass tracks for those two. He's you remember from Dishonest Escape, one of my favorite local bands actually. They're from the Bronx, but he came in to play bass with us for a whole year while his band was on break because we were looking for a bass player. So he's great for filling in, and he held on right until we found Timmy. When he found Timmy, it was a great ride. So
and then Chris went back to the band that was on a break.
Yeah. Well, that's his band.
Okay,
that's his band. Him and Zappy's band. But yeah, they're great. Dishonest Escape, check them out. They're awesome. But yeah, they wrote that, and these guys have been asking me to implement some of the hip hop that I had done, and so I experimented a little with that, and because I hadn't really rhymed in, at least for Fear is Dead, not like direct rhyme, because what I do vocally is a lot different than what I used to do when I used to rhyme. So I tried that with verses. And as far as the message, I'm not like, it wasn't anything like prophetic. It was more foresight. Like a lot of the things that are happening now are kind of obvious, it's just, it's easy. Like you said, like even with managing, like if you know what it is, or you're informed enough, you can see when something's about to happen or go wrong. It like a lot of these things were coming, it was bothering me personally. So I wrote about it, I started writing, and then the hook came after I heard the music, but like the verses I already had, I had a while already, and yeah, the chorus was just very much what was going on at the time. We wrote that like early 2019. We didn't get to release it until February, and just because we had finished the song, I think like 6 months prior, right? And I got on the video late, we had the concept for the video. I don't know if you got a chance to see that.
I did get a chance to see it.
Yeah, so we already had the concept for the video. Ish and I were talking about the viruses and whatever, and using that in the imagery. So yeah, that unfortunately that didn't come together till January. We didn't get to release it till February, but we would have liked to release it January when we released the single. That was kind of coming to the year with that.
But I mean, you still end up releasing it you still release it in February, so you still release it during before the shutdown happened. So yeah,
shit had already hit the fan by then.
Yeah, but one thing that I really do like what you kind of said about that was you wrote it back in 2019, and then you're talking about having foresight and picking up on different things that are happening to kind of just understand where things are going.
Yeah,
and seeing how 2020 has turned out so far and how that song kind of plays in there. It seems like you just really hit the right concept for the right time, in a sense where we could have seen these things coming. We could see everything that's coming, but it's all a matter of just being able to see it and start thinking for yourselves and not just kind of just listening to what other people have to say, because especially the media, because it's like, if you're just listening to what the news has to say, you're always going to be way behind. You're just going to be like, kind of like, oh, I'm just gonna agree with this because that's what the news said. Nah. Just they're gonna twist everything around, and I'm kind of wacky on that. Even like if I'm at my parents' house, my mom's watching the news, she's always complaining about how bad it is. I'm like, well, why don't you turn it off? Well, I just want to know what's going on. I'm like, you're making it worse.
Yeah, you're making yourself crazy thinking about it. My mom will call me up, same thing. She's like, I was just watching the news. I was like, oh, you see, that's where you messed up already. Those key words right there. You're just watching the news. What are you doing? I mean, there's clues on there, though. There is clues, and everything that's happening, there's clues to what's going to come next. There's only a certain amount of things that can come next. You know, it's not rocket science. You know, it's just being aware, keeping your eyes open. You know, like you said, thinking for yourself. You know, doing the math yourself. Like, what is that going to equate to? You know.
Exactly. And kind of going back into Assimilation as well, especially a skill on your vocals throughout this song, because I really want to touch on this, because I really didn't know much about much about your background at this point, if you had really much of a hip hop background or kind of where your inspirations really lie, because when listening to how you did the vocals on that song, it was something that really stuck out to me. I'm just taking a look at, because if I really go deep into a song, I always have a giant note sheet about what I thought so I don't forget, because, well, I don't want, I'm not going to be like, oh, what was I trying to say? Like, oh, well, I got it written down right here. And what I really liked about it was, you kind of because when you introed into it, there's vocals that were deep, dark, and that unclean feel to it, and the intro really called for it on the song. However, once the rest of the song kind of came in, the vocals were clean, but they weren't really in a way that I was expecting you to go on that song, especially with what the intro had, because you worked with a clean vocal, but it was lower tone, so it kind of had a little bit more of like a deeper feel to it. And it was done, as I kind of said, it was like spoken word style, where it was like, if you listen to like Rage Against the Machine or Fever 333, because it's going to have more of that like hip hop influence in there with especially Rage Against the Machine, definitely listen to like something like Guerrilla Radio. You're definitely going to hear it in the verses, especially more of a hip hop influence in there. However, yours sounded more just like this, like straight up, more like spoken word kind of poetic feel to it, which it worked out incredibly well, because it just showed another side of this like punk and metal style that you guys could go with, but it had that hardcore poetic vibe to it as well. I'm like, I was not expecting anything like this, but now given the fact that I kind of had an idea of what the theme of the song was about, but I wasn't sure entirely, but now that you said what it was about, it kind of all makes sense into how that vocal pattern, had the vocal style of it really worked out so damn well on this song. I couldn't get enough of it. It really stuck out to me as just an incredible high point.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I was like, dang, this is pretty good, especially for someone on my aspect as well, because for me, it's like the music that I like. I love punk rock. I love Rise Against, bands like Anti-Flag Against Me, Pennywise. So anything in that punk realm, I'm really big into. And then I got into metalcore a lot, especially more like focusing on the hardcore punk aspects of the genre, because that's kind of where I really stick with. So anything that really kind of can pull me in a punk sense, I kind of really get dragged into really easily. And just the vocal style, it was much different than I was expecting, but it had that same feel, the same emotion, the same vibe to it, though it was completely different. But it worked out tremendously.
Thank you. I got a lot of heavy influences from Dave and our last guitarist. It added on to what I already knew, and I actually started out with poetry before I got into rhyming, and then that, I never stopped liking poetry. I actually still write poetry once in a while. I've done a couple of spoken word performances, but nothing really crazy. Like I have a friend in Brooklyn that has a mergers composition, and it's an event where mergers and mergers. I'm trying to remember. Sorry, Will. But yeah, they'll have different artists come up there and do spoken word or read screenplays or just play acoustic. So, but yeah, I like to keep a lot of different influences, and I read a lot of different things. So, right now, I'm hooked on a witchcraft book, James Baldwin, and the last thing I read was On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder, which is a great book. It's scary. It's like this big, this thick, like no more than 100 pages. But it's about just politics and philosophy of politics and what's going on now, and it's a frightening little freaking book. Scary fucking book. I recommend it. Anybody that is curious about a perspective about what's going on right now.
I'm have to find time to read that, because I'm always busy working on this kind of stuff and then also working a full-time job as well. But I got to find time to read something like that, because I can get into something like that like crazy.
3 pages each chapter, 3 to 5 pages each chapter. And I read a chapter a day because my life is crazy. So I don't have time sometimes to just sit down and read for an hour. But I'm eating. I get a 15-minute break to do something. I read a chapter. And then put the book away until tomorrow. Tomorrow, at some point, I make sure I read a chapter. I was done in under 20 days.
Yeah, that's not bad. I'm gonna have to follow suit on that, because that sounds like something I would definitely go for, especially if it's talking more about what's going on today and kind of has, like you said, like it kind of a little bit or rather scary in a way. Like that's kind of right up my alley, especially as I'm looking at a poster right now with a giant evil Mickey Mouse turned Freddy Krueger. So
yeah, it's something just as scary.
I'm have to make sure I wear all those shirts. They have like just like the really crazy images on there, just to like while I'm reading it, just to really get into the whole entire feel of it all, like kind of like method act while reading.
It's a thing to do.
But I'm jumping back into Assimilation, because where I kind of looked at what like looking through your bio on Spotify, kind of talking about how like your guys' sound in the kind of is a mixture between like it can help bring like people in like the metal scene, the punk scene together. And listening to a song like Assimilation, when I was talking about the vocals, it really had more of that like punk feel to it. So someone like myself really could get into it. However, when I listened to the instrumentals though and really focused in on those, I felt like a much heavier presence from something more like in more of a metal sense. So I can easily see where that transition or where the mixture kind of comes in, because when I listened to it, it kind of started out with more of like it was like groove metal meeting black metal sound at the same time, because it was heavy dull tap drumming followed by like incredibly lower tuned work on both the guitar and the bass. It gave the song a different feel to it. Like I thought it was gonna be something like I'm gonna be getting to something that focuses on a harder sound that it'll be a little bit harder for me to get into, because it's just like something like a really dark, deeper sound to it. Kind of tough for myself, but as we got into the rest of the song, it changes something that's a mix between, I thought it was like a mix between groove metal and hardcore punk. Because I listened to the drums on it, just the pace of the song overall, I was picking up on those groove metal vibes. And kind of funny enough, I was watching the music video for it, and right after it, I went up to go and grab something. As I came back, the first song and the first music video to come up on like the automatic, like, autoplay kind of thing was Walk by Pantera. So I was like,
oh, wow.
Oh, I think I got this right. So I was kind of laughing about that, but then listening to the guitar and the bass, they kind of got slightly tuned up from the beginning, had like a little slight scratch to them overall, and that really, really did it for me, because it's like kind of like having like a little bit of scratch, a little bit overall to the sound, had like a punk rock feel to it, and that hit me incredibly well. So kind of the feel of it overall, I love the mixture of it. And just kind of mixture of like having like more of like a dark, like more of like a metal sound to the instrumentals with more of like a punk feel to the vocals, mixing it together. I can easily see why a band like you guys with Fear is Dead can really take both these different kind of communities, different like sections of rock and metal fans, and have a live show. Different types of fans go to the show, and everyone's going to have one hell of a time, and everyone's going to enjoy different songs, but on incredibly different levels. Where for me on this one, it was definitely going to be more on the vocals, just with the way the pattern was and how everything stuck out with more of that intricate and really honestly awesome like spoken word style vocal. So when Creature told me to check out this track, I'm like, okay, first one I'll check out, and I'm just sitting there thinking, damn, he did me right.
Nice. Shout out to Creech. Thanks, bro.
I gotta keep giving that guy a big shout out, because if it wasn't for him, I probably would have. It'd been a long time before I found out about you guys, just because. It's really easy when he's like, yeah, it's like, if I like his music, he's like, yeah, go check out my best friend's music. Okay, you didn't see me wrong on yours. I'm not gonna say no to this one. Like we were talking about earlier with like that trusted word of mouth kind of thing.
Yep. No, absolutely.
So it all kind of worked out really nicely. And then there was one other song I actually did a deep dive into as well, because I didn't want to just stick with one. I dove deep into Bliss.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what was the idea behind Bliss? What did you really focus in on with that one?
That one, again, with that one, the music came first. Well, what were you thinking?
Yeah. When I'm writing, it's always. I
actually remember something.
Wait, hold up real quick. It's Dave. It's still kind of hard to really hear you right in that moment.
You might not remember that particular song. Almost made it to the proposal. You wrote that during the proposal. That track. That's one of our earliest tracks, and I didn't manage to write it. I couldn't. Like something come to you and don't come. Like we were already at 5 tracks for the EP, and we still had some other tracks we hadn't written to, and that was one of the tracks on the plate. And then I never got to finish writing it, and then it got. You keep writing, so we kept doing new stuff, and it kind of got buried, and it slept through.
That happened with
What Remains. Huh?
That happened with a lot of songs.
Yeah, I know. That happened with Episodes of Indifference. Well, that's a different story. that's my fault. But yeah, we didn't get to Bliss, and then got slept on through What Remains. And then on Omnicidal, I was like, oh yeah, that track. And we got to it, and I finished writing it then with Bliss. I mean, with Episodes, it was a different story. I actually, they had written it, and this is a funny story. They were crazy about it, and I was having the hardest time writing to it for some reason. And I wrote something to it, and I absolutely hated it. So, they kind of got distracted with other stuff. So I was just like, I kind of tucked it away. And then one day we're at rehearsal, like almost a year or so later. And I don't know if it was you or Carlos, right? Where you guys were like, yo, whatever happened to this song? And I was like, damn it. And then, by then enough time had passed and I had forgotten what I had written to it. So I was like, let me try again. And then I tried writing into it again, and I liked it a lot better. And then we ended up doing the song it was for What Remains, right? Yeah. What Remains.
Well, dang, that's definitely one way to go about right. That's definitely one story about how a song got created that I haven't heard yet. I usually, it's just like the ones I hear, it's like, oh, we just it was like everyone forgot about it instead of just like one person just kind of like, you know what? Oh, shoot, I forgot to write that part. I'll do it. Oh, no, wait. Nope. Okay. Yeah, usually it's just like, oh, it kind of came to me. We wrote in like 15 minutes. I'm used to like the really quick songs, like, all of a sudden, like, oh, yeah, we just got inspired. We just kicked it out. And this is what came out instead of like yeah, we kind of had it. And then we just got like forgotten about for a long time. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, shoot, we didn't finish that. Oh, let's give it a shot. Why not?
Yeah, it happens.
I'll say when it came to Bliss, it's like, because it did remind me of a good amount of Assimilation, but when it came to the instrumental, like the whole entire writing aspect of it, especially for David, one thing I really liked about this one was this one was paced a lot differently with a lot of different paces in each section of the song. Like sometimes it was faster, sometimes it was slower. It just had a different overall feel to it. But the thing that I really liked about that fact was how you transition between faster pace to slower pace and then slower to faster, because you didn't get like how I wrote it was, you didn't get cute with it. You didn't try and do anything that was like really crazy, really out there. You didn't try too much to do it. You just kind of just transitioned through it. And the drums, they kind of had this tune for more of like a groove metal feel to it. And your guitar and the bass kind of had more of like a hardcore punk influence to them. Like the rapid transition between the different paces, just given the fact that, got hardcore punk, which can go a lot faster, groove metal, which I've heard go in a little bit more of a slower pace to it. Just how you were able to use both those styles and just be able to transition between a faster and slower pace in this song, I thought was absolutely incredible, because it was done well and it was done efficiently. It wasn't like you're trying to get like these like crazy different like pre-choruses or post-choruses or like do something crazy in the bridge just to try and get it to transition. You just kind of went for it and did it, and it just worked out the best way possible.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's again, I was trying to say earlier, whatever emotion I'm going through. And that's one of those songs that I was just all over the place. So that's kind of a representation of that. And along with creating it with a band where you're able to bounce your emotions and your ideas off of each other. I can't take all the credit for that, but it plays a big part in what we come up with.
That's a good thing too. I'm not gonna lie, just because when you're writing and you're writing through the specific influences that you're feeling at that given moment, I mean, you're gonna end up coming out with something that's from the heart. That's really where it's gonna come from. If you're gonna write, you gotta write what's coming from you, because you can't try and cater to what what the marketplace or what the scene is going for right now. You gotta do what you're feeling at that moment, because that's gonna be the best music possible. And it definitely came forward on this one, especially focusing on how those transitions were done. Like that really shows real dedication to the craft. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I find it corny when you're trying to cater to whatever's going on at the moment. I mean, sometimes if it's done right, but I just find it corny. It's better to do what you feel, go based on your emotion.
Yeah, because I was trying to think like an example I'd have of like a band that's like did something like that, but not in the same way as metalcore band Fit for a King, because they just announced a new album that's coming out this year, and they came out like they had a single that was out way earlier in the year, but they had a single that came out with that album, and I listened to it, and they really went more with like that, like the electronic influences in this song, and like heavy electronic influences in metalcore. I'm like, that's definitely on trend right now, because I Prevail has gotten huge with that. But then what they did with it was a little bit different, where it was like instead of trying to keep up with it, keep up with the current trends and just kind of write for it, it was they took the idea of it, but then they mix it in better with their style, where it's like there's electronic influences in there, but they're darker and they're heavier. So it's like, okay, it makes a little bit more sense. Still not my favorite thing that they've done, but I respect the fact that that they're trying something that's a little bit different than what they normally would do, but also doing it in their own style.
Yeah, it's an experiment.
Let me check that out.
And then jumping back to Bliss as well, because I've spoken with Dave about this stuff, now going to Skillet with the vocals. And again, it kind of had that like punk spoken word style to it on this one as well. And again, it stuck out as a high point when listening to it in the music, because it helps take like those harder influences that we're used to, especially in the music, and gives them a deeper, more poetic feel just through the vocal style overall. So it's like, I don't know why, it has more of like a deep emotional impact through hardcore punk and through like groove metal inspirations. I don't know how you do it with that vocal style, but it does something, man. I can't explain it. It's really powerful.
Thank you. That song was written more like a poem, actually.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I kept the timing parameters, spacing, everything in mind, but when I was writing it, was more as far as like the words I chose and the approach I chose was more like poet, more poetic, more. I mean, honestly, like a lot of stuff. I have a general idea of the melody I want when I'm writing, based off of what Dave writes and the rhythm and the ish and Tim give me. But I usually just kind of like write it out, and every song calls for something different. So then I search what that is, and the words are the words, they're moldable until you pick what you want to do with them. So words are definitely important to me. I consider myself primarily a writer and a vocalist.
And I like what you said about like just doing whatever the song was calling for. So you weren't trying to like go against it. You're trying to listen to music and figuring out, okay, this is what the song sounds like. Now, what's it calling for the vocal pattern to do? Like, what does it exactly need to be done? And what I love about that is you're not trying to force something on there. You're letting the song basically you're writing the song, but you're letting it form itself at the same time as well. Because if you're like, okay, we've got this type of sound and I want to use this vocal pattern. Okay, this might not and you're like writing it out. It's like, okay, this doesn't work out. But if you're going to be like really hard headed enough and like, okay, we're going to put this in here, all of a sudden you release the song and people might be saying, or like you might listen to it and you might be thinking to yourself, okay, this actually didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, because it's just the vocal pattern and the music just do not work out altogether. And then people are listening to it and they might be thinking the same thing. However, when it's the other way around, like what you did on Bliss, where it's, okay, here's what the music is calling for, especially in terms of the vocals, and you're just going to let the music kind of guide you to writing that pattern and writing out whatever you need to do. And then you release it. Everyone's going to end up feeling the same way as well. It's like, okay, it's like, this is what the music is calling for. I hope the vocals go this way. Boom. They do. And everyone's just going to be thinking, this is what I'm talking about. Oh, yeah.
You got to use the appropriate tool for the for the right job.
Exactly.
That's pretty much it.
So if I tried using like a 10 millimeter socket to rotate my tires, that just doesn't work.
No, not at all. And also, like, I guess subject matter wise, I was going, I related in a personal way to the feeling of the music. So at least that's what the music was suggesting to me. So I dug in to whatever I was going through personally to bring out something that was appropriate, to the soundscape.
And from what I've seen as well, this is just coming from the listener's perspective as well, as the songs that I've always felt have been usually the ones that hit the hardest more like emotionally and really stick out in my mind the most are those songs that have a real emotional connection, not only to like the listener, but to the artist as well. Because I've heard some songs, like especially a couple of songs this year. I'm trying to think of a good example. One of my favorite songs from this year is from a band called Polaris, Australian metalcore band. It's called Above My Head. And what it does is it details the frontman's whole entire journey going through depression and suicidal tendencies and not being able to deal with everything that he's going through, and how it's just taking too much of a toll on him. And listening to how that song sounds and just the message behind it, why I like it so much is it perfectly described and perfectly felt like what I had gone through when I was dealing with stuff like that 3 years ago. So when it comes to an artist really putting all that emotion out in there, putting that authenticity in there, especially not only with the sound, but then the vocal pattern and the meaning as well in the words, holy shit, do you get some just incredibly powerful songs that just stick out in the minds with fans more than anything else, more than just, like that standard, like I'd say like bubblegum pop sounds. It's just like, it sticks out so much more. It just has so much more of an emotional connection to not only the person writing and performing it, but to the people listening to it as well.
Yeah, genuine connection is very important. It's what keeps it affects how the listener considers the artist, and then they start to develop their own relationship with the music, with the artist. So they come back. It's like coming back to a friend that gives you good advice, or that, is enough fun to help you forget your problems. So, something like that.
And not that, but it's just one thing I've always kind of thought of was, and I've heard this many different times when it comes to music is kind of like a time machine in a way too, because when you listen to the sounds and you feel those emotions that the sounds are really, making you feel, it's going to take you back to a certain time in life when you were feeling those emotions the strongest. So it might have been something where you heard this certain song when everything was going right in life. So every time you hear it now, it makes you feel incredibly happy. You might have heard a certain song when you were maybe in love with a girl or for everyone else, that girl, guy, whoever you might be in love with. But then all of a sudden you end up, things didn't work out. And then hearing that song now, it's just, you think about that person and just what isn't anymore and just the pain it causes. There's so many different things that you feel, but it's like music can be a time machine, not only for the listener, but also for the person writing it as well, because you're writing about things that are at certain times of your lives. And you might be listening to these songs and playing these songs, and you're going to be feeling those emotions that you felt back maybe 2 or 3 or 5 or even, 20 years ago when you wrote that song.
Absolutely. A lot of the songs that we do that to me. Every time that helps a lot with performance, because when we're on stage, being able to flash back allows me to tap back into that emotion when I first wrote it, at least as close as possible. And I'm able to present that to everybody in a performance. It creates a stronger connection. People want a genuine connection.
Oh, they easily do. I got an example of that, like from one of the shows I was at, just to kind of go off that was, I went to see Motionless in White, and it was the first time they played their song Chord. And it kind of has this real like Linkin Park vibe to it, because the inspiration was from Linkin Park on the song, due to how much their lead singer, or Motionless in White's lead singer Chris, was inspired by Chester Bennington growing up. And just the feel of the song, just how everything went there, and just the emotion behind everything that had gone on with Chester's unfortunate passing. Just the emotion that was felt not only between the fans that had lost an artist that they really truly connected with, and an artist who really connected with that artist as a fan as well. Just the emotion that was, and the energy that was in the room when they played that live for the first time was something that was incredible. It was like, it was kind of something that everyone could be able to get together and kind of remember remember all the, the good times that they had, seeing Linkin Park live and experiencing Linkin Park's music at the same time, all through someone else's song that was kind of inspired by Chester and Linkin Park. It was really awesome. And where I was going with that is just the emotion you could see Chris on stage just kind of go through while playing that song, kind of going back to a time where it's just like, the time of when Chester unfortunately passed away, and just the having to deal with that mentally from everybody else, just the emotion that was being put on stage that the crowd could feel, just everyone was feeding off that energy, and it becoming more of like just like more like a celebration of what was instead of the hurt of what had happened.
Yeah. It's funny. I got my own theory on that. Like, I wasn't really into Linkin Park, but I was, paying a little bit of attention for those 2 years before he died. If I'm not mistaken, they had released an album prior to the year prior, right?
It was like, I'm actually, give me a quick minute. I'm going to look up when that album came out, because I believe it was like a couple months beforehand. Because, it was in 2017. I just got to find May 19th, 2017. So it was 2 months beforehand.
Okay, yeah. His fans were really cruel. They were giving him very cruel reviews. The guy's a sensitive guy. I mean, there's other, a lot of conspiracy theories to why he's dead. But it just, from what I observed, I'm like, wow, everybody's being really cruel to this guy. And everybody, always talking about how much they love him. And as an artist, a sensitive artist, I'm sure that was real brutal for him to see that. It was almost bullyish of fans in a way.
Yeah, in a little bit. And kind of like, I know why people really didn't like the album as much is because, of course, when you think of Linkin Park,
entitled to, but don't bash the guy. He's obviously sensitive. Like chill.
Yeah, but what really changed up with that was because once he passed, it was everyone listened to that album again, and then each song had so much more of a different meaning to it because
I'm sure
because now everyone could see what was actually going on. Like everyone, but of course it was too late, and everyone just kind of thought
hindsight is a motherfucker.
Oh God, yeah. Hindsight was if there's a case like hindsight is the biggest motherfucker, it's the One More Light album, because it's kind of like we all should have realized what was going on before what had happened.
Yeah. That was unfortunate, And then Chris died not too long after that. Chris Cornell.
I think Chris died before that.
Didn't he die like a year after?
I gotta look it up because I know the day.
I got the date on my wall. I just have to get up to look.
It was 2 months. Chris died the day before One More Light came out.
Before his project. Okay. So Chris died first.
Chris died on May 18th. One More Light came out on May 19th, and then Chester died on July 20th.
2 months later.
I still remember because I still remember because this is I still remember it was on that day too, because I was working at a different the first job I had out of college, and people were telling me to go online because I'm like, why are you guys telling me to go online? And I forgot what site I went on, but everyone was freaking out because it was like O.J. Simpson was getting out of jail, so everyone was talking about that. And all of a sudden, like, because everyone was looking at my computer and I was talking about it, but all of a sudden a little blurb in the corner, it was Chester Bennington dead at like 41. And I froze. And everyone else is talking around me and I just froze because that's all I could focus on. And then my ex-girlfriend texted me telling me that, like, what had happened. And I'm just like, I just sat there and everyone's like, Kevin, you look shocked. And I just literally pointed at the only thing on the webpage that was not O.J. Simpson related because it was about Chester. And I pointed at it. And all of a sudden, like, half the people were like, what are you pointing at? And then the other half were just like, just went completely dead silent at the same time, too. Because all of a sudden, everyone had realized, like someone that they really resonated with so much growing up and just how much they loved his music was now gone.
Yeah.
It was rough.
I imagine. Right. I appreciated it, but I wasn't, and also I was from a different generation. But yeah, that caught my attention. It was unfortunate.
Yeah, it's just the thing that's really like, I mean, there's so many different, I don't want to say like, because there's so many things that are unfortunate about it. It's just with what had happened, but yeah, it's like, I kind of like with how bad One More Light was received. And then how much of a different opinion everyone had on it following what had happened. It is truly sad. Hindsight is a motherfucker.
But, you hope people learn.
Hope people learn and hope people are able to, start to have the foresight, like what you're like Assimilation, have the foresight to be able to pick up on the clues in society or with people as well, to see what's going on, and especially to not only, figure out, okay, this is what might happen next, but also to maybe take action and help out so that you don't get to the point of no return.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough on both sides too, man. Even on a personal level, like dealing with depression, dealing with people that are dealing with depression. It's tough. It's especially nowadays. I'm sure it's a lot more prevalent, like with everything going on. I'm sure a lot of people are going through it right now.
I can almost guarantee that
to each other.
Yeah, I can almost guarantee there are many more people going through that right now than probably any other time that we're really aware of, just because of what's going on in the world over the past 5-6 months.
Yeah,
However,
it's not like it's one thing either. It's like
it's like one thing every 2 weeks. It's like there's something new that happens every single time, and it's also at the same time too. It's just there's people that are always going to be super duper happy, but you got to check on those people as well too, because that's just what they know what to do. They're just always that kind of way, maybe bubbly, happy, always always wanting to talk kind of thing, always willing to help, but they might be afraid to ask for help themselves because everyone sees them as being those strong people, and they don't want to show that they're the other way.
Maybe they're just strong.
maybe there are, but I mean, because I was that way. I'm
joking.
I mean, I don't know, but what I was saying was I was that way where it was like I was always focused on like helping out other people and like always like, it's like I'll listen to your problems kind of thing. But then when I was going through my stuff, it was like I didn't want to tell anybody just because I kind of was afraid people were going to see me as weak.
Nobody wants to complain. At least not really. Nobody wants to be the complainer. Right? I mean, some people do, but generally people that are striving to be strong about things don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's kind of just best way to put it, maybe just especially in the time that we're in right now, just make sure you're checking on the people that you care about, your friends, your family, stay connected with them. And just make sure that they know, and they know that if anybody needs anything, you're going to be there for them and that they can be there for you at the same time as well. Because especially in the time we're going through right now. Because I'll put it this way, who the hell knows what's going to even happen next week or next month? Especially this year.
Yeah. Who knows?
But I'll say this. But now with a wacky segue on this, because we're talking about slightly looking into the future for Fears as well. You guys are talking about coming out with your first album right now that I kind of said you should call the Craigslist album because you found basically the band's lineup through Craigslist. So
our drummer. He's the last of the Craigslist. Okay. After that, there has been no more Craigslist. Right. David is the last of the Craigslist. Ish, our new drummer, he was a friend and he played. He rehearsed actually at the same rehearsal studio we did, so we see him all the time. We got to hear him, and when the opening came up, it was just like, yeah, he's definitely a fucking candidate. And to quote him, when I called him, he's like, I knew I was getting an offer I couldn't refuse. So, he was very happy to help us out. He was to play drums with us. He's great. We love him. And Timmy, I was cool with him for a while. I know him for a couple of years. And he had seen us play with Rebelmatic at this festival was Brooklyn Wildlife. It's awesome. What was the name of that place? The Paper Box. And he saw us, and then he's like, yo, I want to play in this band. he never said anything, but but we stayed in touch. And then when I thought of a bass player, I was like, let me give Timmy a call. He might want to play. And sure enough, he was more than happy to play with. Great. I got a great bunch of guys. Everybody's awesome.
And it seems like you found your three bands for you specifically. So it seems like you found your three bandmates either through more conventional ways, or of course, I gotta get on Dave for this one through Craigslist, just because I think it's too much fun to bring up. But it seems like you definitely found out you found your group, you found your guys.
Yeah, that's family.
So I'll say so because I know you mentioned earlier, and I brought it up, but say you're coming out with a new album at some point, you're working on it. So what can we expect from your first full album for Fear is Dead when it comes to the music? And do you have a potential release date set, or is that still up in the air?
You want to tell them music? I'll tell them release date.
Music is, again, kind of experimental.
We got a lot of stuff.
Assimilation is going to be like a good taste of what's coming. Assimilation, even Bliss, there's just a lot of everything from what we used to do and what we're working towards that's going to be on this. Some it's going to feel familiar, but then it's going to be like, oh, this is fresh. It's going to be all over the place.
The experimental is all hell.
We just already have I think 6 or 7 songs already towards it. I mean, we have more music. I'm writing other songs. We're trying to go for 10, but we'll probably write more than we need so we can pick out the best ones for everybody. What batteries are there now? Yo, Ish, can you get my charger from the studio room? Por favor? Thank you. I'll introduce you to Ish real quick.
Once he gets the charger?
Yeah, once he gets the charger. As far as release date, we were hoping January. That should give us enough time, and we got a nice head start. So we're not trying to rush it. We want everything to be, every piece to fit right. And be able to present our best works, from this larger body of work. And also, it depends what the times call for. Because we were going to release one particular single, but now the times are calling for this other single that we recorded. So we're going to switch it up. I want to put out whatever message is needed, or be most appropriate from what we have to say. Thank you. Ish, say hi.
What's up, Ish? Oh, is he wearing a Is he wearing a Tottenham jersey?
Are you what jersey are you wearing?
Tottenham.
Oh, yes. No. Not Tottenham.
He said not Tottenham.
Yes, Tottenham. We won today. Yes, we beat Leicester.
I have to say it because my brother's a huge Tottenham supporter, and I cannot support the same team my brother supports. So.
I'm gonna put the charger on. Hopefully my phone won't overheat like Creature's.
I mean, yeah, it should, because when Creature, you guys got the AC going at least, because Creature didn't, and just because otherwise I would have heard it, and oh man, that. At least we're not gonna have that problem. Whew, thank God. Now I can cool down a little bit. Boom. My vocal rim shot there, but I kind of like what you're saying about the fact that you kind of have an idea of when you want to release it, but also when it comes to releasing a single, following what the times call for. Because I got a great example of that actually happened this year with a band called From Ashes to New. They were going to release they had a song planned. They were going to release a single sometime in April, but then all of a sudden they had a whole plan for a different one that they're going to release later down the line called Panic. It was all about dealing with anxiety and depression. However, it also really fit in well with like right when everything was getting shut down with panic, everything going around, like people buying toilet paper like crazy. Right. So what they did was they kind of pivoted to quickly shoot a music video for that song specifically, and then released it like middle of March, like right as everything was starting. It was like the perfect time to drop, or no, it was April. They released it middle of April. Perfect time to do it. So it's like, you got to follow what the times are calling for, because it's kind of like you already have the music out there. The song's already created. The meaning's already there. But if you can just hit the perfect time to release it, and if you got a bunch of songs that are ready to go and try to figure out what single you're going to go with, and all of a sudden something happens and it's the perfect time to release a certain song, go for it. I mean, take a look at Creature and Rebel Manic. They released Insult to Injury on June 3rd. Perfect timing to release that as well, given what was going on.
That wasn't the single they were going to go for either.
Exactly. Yeah, because I asked Creature that. He's like, we weren't going to go for that one, but we couldn't go any other way. It just made sense. And given what had happened a week before that song came out, it was perfect timing for them to release that, given the message that song had behind it.
Absolutely. Great video. It's real simple, but very powerful.
No, yeah, I love the concept behind it, because it even for myself, I was constantly wondering, like Frey had asked Creature, like, who was he getting chased by? Because I just didn't know if they had a specific person in mind, or if it was like more of a broad thing. But I was absolutely, I told him I loved at the end all of a sudden where it was like not going to take this fear anymore, just kind of turning around and then basically kicking the shit out of the guy that was following him. Like, I loved how that kind of did that quick turn in the last 5 seconds of the video.
Yeah. Yeah, it was intense. It was suggestive in a lot of different directions. Well, not a lot, but in certain directions, very specific directions, actually. But at the end, it is very specific, very direct, and it's not loud, but it's matter of fact. Like,
it's blunt.
Yes. I like it. It is. When I saw it the first time, I was like, it's pretty simple. And then I was like, that's all you need. It's perfect.
Yeah.
For the message he was trying to send, it was perfect.
Yeah, it's
my hats off to the film director.
It's kind of like the whole entire less is more concept. In that case, doing less we've said so much more.
Yeah, absolutely.
So outside of the new album that's being released potentially in January, we'll see. Again, anything can happen within that point of, especially with 2020, who knows what the hell is going to happen.
Well, we're releasing singles before that. That's when we're trying to release the album, but we're planning on releasing singles very soon. We want to release. We're aiming for within a month, but we have to see how the mix goes. We just came out of the studio, and because of COVID, we don't know how engineers' time is working, what studios are going to be open, and we want to be very particular with the mixes it. So, so I say in the next month or two, we should be releasing a single. And we're hoping to release one every 3 months till January. But that's the objective. We don't want to start putting out music. Plus, it's also different because, as independent artists, we can't keep remixing to release singles. Like, just using Spotify, for example, it's not really wise to put out the whole album because you can only send the curator one song prior to release, right? So it's almost smarter to release singles, and then every time, you give it to the curators, and, they can put it on playlists. Rather than just one song out of 10, that's kind of crazy. I'd rather all of them get on there, and give all the songs a fair shot, and then compile them at the end, with a couple of songs that no one's heard, and then, just put the album out together.
See, that's actually something I didn't know, especially in regards to Spotify and how that works. So now it's starting to make
learning.
I was gonna say, now it's making more sense why, like a couple of years ago, a band like Breaking Benjamin, like on their album, they had 10 songs on that album, but they released 5 of them as singles. And I'm just like, wow, can we stop doing that? But now it makes sense why they would do that, because then instead of having the full album go to the curators once, they had it 6 chances because you had 5 singles and then the rest of the album came out, so you could pick one out of those 5. So you had 60% of the songs going through those curators. And then there's someone like Falling in Reverse as well, because they've released, since their last album, they've only released like 5 or 6 songs, but through 3 years, but they're all singles. And it's just the timing of them. It's just like, okay, it makes total sense now, because then it's helped, especially in the world we're living in today, where it seems like, especially when it comes to getting on playlists as well, on streaming places like Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, that kind of stuff. It makes sense that you're just reacting to how reacting to the market and how the services that people are using, or the products people are using to listen to music, how they're being run, working within those parameters to basically maximize your reach.
Yeah, basically. And like, if we had more money behind us, it would be a different story. Like, we could put the whole album out and then remix a single and then give that to the curator, right? And it's brand new again, but that costs money. And it costs money to remix a song, go back into the studio, rewrite, re-record stuff, as an independent artist, you want to find a way to get more bang for your buck, and get more miles for your step. It's smart.
Yeah, it's somewhere, it's like those bigger artists where they're able to do a couple of these more things like remix and re-record. It's like, yeah, you can do that because you got the money, but as an independent artist, you have to be much more conscientious and much more efficient with how you're using your marketing dollars, because if you're not going to be efficient with it, you're not going to get the overall impact you want to see. You're not going to get the overall, a rate of return you want to see. There's me using my econ degree for something. Woohoo. But,
yeah, absolutely.
But it's because it's the same thing with me with trying to promote the podcast as well. It's like, where am I going to get my best, where am I going to get the best, chances for people to actually get to know about it and listen to it? Well, it's like if I try and, basically promote on Spotify, the problem is to try and actually get the promotion for it, it's for what I need to do, it's going to cost so much money, and I'm just going to end up getting lost in the shuffle. So I have to figure out better ways to do it, and the better ways I use it is focus on Instagram, because that's where I can get to as many people as I can, and then focus on YouTube as well, because that's where I can actually focus more in on, especially for the videos, finding the people that would most likely watch the videos and listen to it.
Fiverr?
And then, no, I don't.
Check it out. It's not bad. It's not bad at all.
So what's it all about?
Just people doing small jobs. A lot of it is in marketing, and help promote stuff, get stuff out. It seems to be pretty cool. I've used it a couple of times and I wasn't disappointed. I'm still learning about them, so I'm not going to totally big them up like that. But it's interesting to check out.
Okay. Yeah, because I've got plans for sometime within the next week or two. I've got a bunch of promotional stuff ready to grow the podcast, and I've got a significant amount of money where I can put behind it that I've saved up for myself. So we'll see how it goes.
And they're economical. They're not too pricey. And they got different ranges. It's the more I look at it, check it out.
So, I mean, you're saying
the more it makes sense.
I mean, you're saying this to a guy that went to college and studied economics, so you're definitely piquing my interest when you're talking about efficiencies with it. So,
okay.
Woohoo!
Yeah, awesome.
Well, I've got one more question I really want to ask you guys, because take a look at the time. Even after 4 restarts, this one's gone for almost 2 hours at this point. So
awesome.
We're doing so. The last thing I have to say is we talked about, how you guys came together, about different songs you guys have, especially Assimilation. Talked about new music that's come out and a bunch of other stuff in between in terms of the writing process, inspirations, and marketing, just a bunch of just a bunch of great stuff that we've talked about. But do you guys have a certain plan of how you want to go about growing the band? Not only now during this current state of the world, but once the pandemic is over, you're able to start playing live shows again. and just basically going back to normal, or what normal was before the pandemic hit. Do you have an idea of what you want to do with not only within the time now, but back once everything kind of gets back to where you can play live shows, you know, people can be put through merch tables again during shows? Maybe me at one point, because that sounds like a lot of fun. And I'd probably be the one to either put someone through it or go through it myself. Actually, I'd volunteer to go through it myself. What am I talking about? But do you have a plan to try and grow the band's reach in terms of live shows in different areas that you haven't been to yet, or just bigger shows? Just kind of what's the idea behind it all?
Well, go out of town, that's for sure. I want us to get out of town, get to the surrounding states, surrounding areas. Just focus more on that. We went to LA, not LA. We went to LA, we went to South Cali, we went to Seattle. We went around the West Coast. We got a lot of love there. It was great. I miss those guys. We haven't done enough on the East Coast, so I want to focus more on the East Coast. But one thing, though, just the way things are going, we've been trying to gather material, gather content, and so that we're ready for any of the options that arise. Because things are very unpredictable right now. There might not be shows for a whole year, you know? So when the time does come that there are shows, we should be ready. We should have content. We should have enough music to perform for like 3-4 hours, you know? And just various content, videos, you know, just photos, you know, merch, get everything streamlined so that we're ready to move on every plane possible. But also figure out the internet and figure out how to use that. That's our best friend right now, because the playing field is level, right? There's no live shows, so even big artists aren't performing. Best thing we can do is perform from local studios or perform from our homes. You know, so aside from our established followers, everything's kind of level. This gives a lot of independent artists a chance. There's a lot of talent out there. It's just about figuring out how to get it to the people. You know, so same thing we're trying to do. We're trying to figure out what the best angle is for us in the meantime, while being ready for the opportunities that may come or may not come back. You know, and if it doesn't come back, then we're looking at a whole new market.
Yeah, and then you have to learn that, and then you have to learn that whole new market at that point as well. If it ends up going that route.
Yeah, I mean it's there right now, and we're gonna have to survive that for. You know, it's gonna be a while. People are getting sick again. You know, they can't stop partying, and I don't blame them. It's summer, but still, there's a bigger picture. You know, and I don't know. There's so many different views on it. You know, we're wrapping up, so I'm not trying to get into that for another podcast. You know, but yeah, as far as that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure, trying to get as much content together and be as ready for any of the options that may arise, because it's going to be different than what we're used to. In my opinion.
Understandable, because I mean, even like on my end as well, like I'm trying to figure out exactly what to do with some of these things, but I'm a little bit in a different spot because everything I deal with is mostly online anyway. So it's like I'm already kind of, nothing's really changed on my end, but I can see where you're coming from, where it's, you don't know exactly when you're going to be able to start playing live shows again. You don't know exactly what, you know, what those are going to actually end up being like. You don't know what it's going to be like trying to get your music out, especially, you know, maybe at the end, going into when you're releasing that, when the album fully comes out, what the state of the world might be like, or what the state of music might be like, given the fact that you don't know where like all the money's going. Anything can change. So I like the fact that you kind of have an idea of, we're preparing for so many different, we're going to have so much content so that whatever situation happens, we can maximize our reach and our influence, and we can maximize growing our fan base based off of whatever situation happens. And then none of that, but okay, so one situation happens, you might be able to use content from like 5 different ideas that you had, because it all ends up working out in the end. And then all of a sudden you've got more content than almost anybody else.
Yeah, hopefully. We're working on it. we're working on. We're just getting started.
I mean, I'd say, because I know you guys are working on music too, but I mean, maybe ramp it up at the same time as well. Because again, you got the perfect time to do it, which is right now.
Yeah. I built a green screen wall. Put a green screen wall up in the room next to the lab where we do our music. We have a little pre-production studio.
Oh, nice.
We jam stuff out. Yeah. We did a live IG live performance. So rehearsal, whatever, writing session. Like about half an hour before your show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's on there. It's on IGTV. It's real casual. We're just our bass player couldn't make it, so it's just the three of us, and we're just going through the song, practicing. We haven't, we don't play much these days, so it was nice to do that.
Just being, in this sense, of being as authentic as possible, just playing, just doing whatever you guys felt like, just working on stuff and just showing the fan base that, you're not curating to like a certain type of kind. You're just going to be yourselves. And that's the way you should be, because that's what honestly, that's what people want to see. People want to see people being themselves. They really don't want to see all of a sudden you try and be all of a sudden, I'm going to use like YouTubers as an example. It's like, it's a lot fun. It's a lot funner watching people that like actually like are talking about things that are legitimate, than all of a sudden, I'm going to sit in a pool for 12 hours. So what is that going to accomplish? It's like, do you like to do that? Well, no, but it's like, well, what do you like to do? Well, come on, just like talk to me a bit here. Come on. But
right.
That's kind of how I look at it. It's like, I'd rather watch people that are actually talking about something that's really, truly for them than something that are like actually, or playing something that's truly for them instead of just something that, they feel is gonna get views or sell albums or something like that.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I personally feel like the more people get to know us, the more they'll relate, or they won't. Like, I don't want to fuck with these guys, or like, yeah, these guys seem cool. I like what they're talking about. I like the music. I like their vibe.
Yeah, and if you get a good vibe off of someone, like, someone's music, the connection can be incredible.
Yeah. Genuine connection.
Because I think we kind of started with genuine connection. I feel like that's a great place to end this with, is genuine connection with music. So, Skilla, Dave, I want to thank you guys for being on the podcast. We did about 2 incredible hours where this might be the most. It was great talking to you guys. This might be the most informational one for myself that I've ever done, because stuff you're talking about when it came to marketing through Spotify, releasing on Spotify, and then talking about like when you're trying to market yourself and like really grow the band, doing it by yourself to figure out what's going on. So when you do end up having to hire a manager, you have an idea of what needs to be done. There's kind of the whole insight behind that. I had never even thought about that before. So that really got my brain, like, it got it going. I'm like, holy shit. It was like an epiphany moment right there.
I'm glad we could share that.
Yeah, and then let me know when you guys are going to come out with your first single, what day it comes out, what the song is, so that we can feature as the song of the day choice on that day, so that people can really get behind Fear is Dead. And then also, then when the album is coming out, we'll do the exact same thing as well, and we'll just make sure that as many people can listen to Fear is Dead, because I'm going to do it for you guys. And Creature was like, you're doing this because Creature kind of pushed it for him, like, because I know they're coming out with Rebel Max coming out with one at the end of August. He's like, yeah. You're gonna push it out. I'm like, yeah. And all of a sudden he kind of like mentioned, he's like, you can do the same thing for Fear is Dead too. I'm like, of course, why wouldn't I?
We appreciate it. Appreciate the support. Appreciate the love. Glad you like the music.
Absolutely love it, especially Assimilation.
Thank you. I guess if I can just say a couple words to people watching.
Go for it.
You can check out our music at www.fearisdead.com. We're on practically every music platform. You can Google us. We love being Googled. What else? We have Assimilation out right now. There's a video out. We're constantly on Instagram, more so than Facebook. Give a shout out to some bands, of course, Creature and Rebelmatic, Maafa, Sonus Escape, Paragnosis, Winter Wolf. Am I forgetting anybody, guys? No. There's probably more. Muckrakers. Yeah, there's so many bands out there that show us love and they're cool and that are very talented, and we recommend you check them out. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for having us, man.
Thanks for being on, and for everyone listening or watching the video, if you're on YouTube, just take a look at the description below. Anything when it comes to Fear is Dead, anything that Skillet just mentioned where you can find them. Because I know you guys like convenience. If you're on the YouTube video, look in the description. All the links for everything will be there. If you're on Spotify, Podcast, Google Play, the links will be in the description for the podcast as well, because it's so much easier to just click on a link than it is to actually go and search it up. We're going to make it as easy as possible for you guys to find them. Efficiency for the win.
Yes, absolutely.
And on that note, Skila and Dave, again, thank you for being on the podcast. This was awesome. Can't wait to hear what more new music you guys have in store for us in the coming couple months, next year when the album releases. And hopefully, soon enough, concerts will be able to fully resume in the way they need to resume, because I'm expecting now to be put through someone else's merch table at one of your shows. If it doesn't happen, I'm going to be really angry.
Absolutely. I could find the girl that broke the table for you.
Sounds like a plan. Alrighty, well, thanks, guys. And instead of saying, goodbye, I always like saying see you later, because I feel like we're going to end up having to do either one more of these, but we'll stay connected as well, because I do want to see you guys play live. So on that note, see you later.
Peace. See you later.
Well, folks, that was my interview with Skillet and David of Fear is Dead. Their new album will be coming out sometime next year, most likely January. I believe they said January. Yes, they did. They'll have a couple singles come out before that, though. You'll find out when they come out, because we're going to tell you when they come out, and we're going to play the first one as a Song of the Day feature, guaranteed. So you guys will be in the know on that. Also, afterwards, while I was talking with them, I did have an idea for a podcast idea coming up like at the end of the year, beginning of 2021, where get a lot of the bands that we've had on the podcast before, bring them all together on one Zoom call. And what we do is we talk through everything that has happened. And talk about kind of, well, especially in 2020, and talk about like basically the scene, the independent scene primarily, and how these bands are planning to go forward in 2021, and basically how it's going to be. Because it could be just like the thing where it's like people are going to look and say, well, what is music going to be like? Especially in the more local scene. Yeah, these bands are definitely going to know about it. So that's an idea I'm going to be working on to see if I can make that happen. But of course, end of the year is always crazy. But it's an idea. It's a brainchild. That's probably going to be in January. Yeah, January. So I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. This was a fun one for me to do, and I'm going to go eat some food. So thank you guys for listening and watching. This is Kevin from the My Song Day Rock 2000 Day presents the Chord Progression Podcast. And you guys know how I end every single one of these videos with a big, healthy, and hearty see ya.